Welcome, Richard, to the podcast, The Joys of the Journey. I've been following you on Instagram for some time, and what got my attention is like you were giving advice to fencers how to get better with pretty much everything. And because me as a fencer, years ago, we never had that. And we also always see on social media like everybody's educating about tennis, about this and about that. And I feel like there's so much room for us to grow as a coaches and learning from somebody like you that is so much focused on very, very crucial part of the training of an athlete. And when I saw your account, I was like, I need to learn more. So every time you post a video, I'm like, look at us, really? It's like, I'm very curious because I am a fencing coach, but there's a lot that I don't know behind the scenes. And so I want to
Yeah.
know, how did you first, I want to introduce you to everybody. I know you're an epic fencer. That's
Well,
what I
I
know.
fenced
And I want to know, how did
I
you
started
start
fencing
fencing?
probably a lot of the ways other kids do. I loved Lord of the Rings and Star Wars growing up, and I asked my mom, like, I want to do that. How can I do that as a sport? And so there was a summer camp at Alamo Fencing Academy down in San Antonio, Texas. And I went to that camp and fell in love with it immediately. It was just my favorite thing ever right off the bat. And it just never stopped.
And so I saw another video
Yeah.
that you recently
Yeah.
had, and it was so funny to me. So
Yeah.
took 5 years off of fencing, competing, and then you went back to the tournament. And I was listening how you said, physically I was fine and this and that. And tell
Right.
me,
So,
how was your
yeah, I totally get
mindset
it.
different than
I
when
went
you
in
were
there
an
fully
athlete,
just trying to have fun,
like
you know,
young athlete?
push myself, go hard, try to win. I never go into a tournament with the idea of like, okay, I'm not going to win. I always, no matter what, every bout, go and win. Your goal is to win. That's just mindset, right? I teach that to my kids whenever we're working out or when they're on the strip or we're talking. It's like, don't go in there with the mindset of like, this guy is so good. He's got this and this rating, or he came from here. Like, don't think like that. Just go in there and try your absolute best to win and strategize. But I also knew that, I went to a local tournament that was in Maryland, Savage Fencing, I think is the name of it. And I just went in there really to have fun. And I wasn't coming out with a lot of expectations because I knew I have been out of competing for so long that, you know, I can't expect the world from this, but I'm still going to go give it my best, have it my all, and I'm not going to be disappointed about, my results.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? Like when we become a little bit more mature, you're actually finding the joy of what you used to do, regardless of the outcome. I mean, of course, we're competitive athletes or whatever sport you're doing or whatever you're doing in life. But at the same time, you're starting to find little joys that actually makes it fun instead of like, I have to win. And if I don't win, and then what everybody's going to say, and then you start
Right,
kind of digging
exactly.
a hole for
It's a
yourself and
tricky
your
balance,
mindset
right?
is completely falling
You have
apart.
to, what I tell a lot of the fencers in my club when they get frustrated at not winning, especially in practice, like we're not even in a tournament, they get lose a 5 touch bout with me or somebody else. They'll stomp their feet or like, get super angry. And I try to remind them, just play the game, right? Like you go play basketball or play soccer with friends and you're just practicing or having fun. It's like nobody's getting that worked up over this practice round, right? They're playing the game. And I try to remind the kids around me and even just, any other adult that's out there, just play the game and it goes a lot smoother. And I think we all know that one of the things that you have to maintain while fencing is looseness, staying relaxed. Because if you tighten up and grip your blade super hard and you're tight up here, you're gonna move slower and you're not gonna be able to react fast enough. And so if you're constantly like so intense about winning or worried about losing, you lose that relaxation that's absolutely necessary to be able to fence well.
The muscles are like super tight. And so
Mhm.
yesterday we were coaching in Ontario, Fortune Fencing. It was the name of the tournament was Fortune Fencing, right? Yeah. So there were like 4 or 5 tournaments a day. It was a very tiring like event. It's a great organized. It's just like because when you have so many events a day. So one of my girls, I remember, she was so nervous, and I see her nervous. You can read your kids by the body language. And so she's like, I really want to move, but I cannot move. And I'm like, yeah, because you're nervous. She's like, no, I'm so relaxed.
Right.
I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're
Right.
telling yourself you are, but you're not, because I've been in that position too. So it's very interesting how the kids sometimes are like saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm not nervous, but I cannot move. Well, you said it. If you cannot move, your muscles are tight, you're tense. And so I'm very curious for comparing Saber to Epe, because for us, you see how fast is for us. Everything is super, super fast. So for you guys, do you kind of coach your kids to be a little bit more patient? Like, I'm
So
just very curious,
to make
like,
a clear
what is the
distinction,
difference
I
between
I
coaching
don't
Saber and
coach
epee?
epee. I do coach as like the strength and conditioning, right? But as an epee fencer, I can tell you the difference,
But
right?
you've been an epee fencer, so you know the yeah.
There is like a, a level of patience that you need in epee. If you try to rush everything, you will lose the touch because in saber and foil, you have the right of way. So if you go and make that attack, I mean, even if there's a double light, if you have the right of way, you get the touch, regardless whether you get hit. But in epee, right, there's you can get a double. And sometimes it doesn't always work that way either because just the nature of a cut versus a thrust is a little bit different. And so you have to be patient and continuously move. And even though it's a slower pace, you can't stop. That's one thing that, like, if I'm doing terrible in a bout, I'll ask the other guy, like, "Man, what was going on?" He's like, "Well, your footwork was really good up until you started trying to plan or think, or, like, you got in distance and you were like and then you just froze." And then, like, I just saw that happen 2 times, so I waited for the 3rd time and I got you, and I just did that over and over. So you have to have the patience to keep moving in, closing distance, open distance, move back and forth, and try to wait for those openings and create the openings too. So it is a little more patience.
I was just thinking right now, we have to do some challenge where you will coach a saber fencer and I will coach an epee
Right.
fencer, and we're
Yeah,
gonna
it's
see
it's way
like
different.
what the
Actually, it's
outcome
pretty
will
funny.
be.
I
I'm just
saw one of the kids
curious.
who's on Saber, switch over and try to fence epee, just this last week, and it's super funny, seeing a Saber fencer go and try to fence epee because they just charge, right? And then for me, when I'm fencing Saber, I've fenced like one Saber tournament in my life, but
Yeah.
I was not playing the right of way game. I was playing my patient kind of bouncing game, right? And then using my point a lot. And so it's funny when you cross those things. It's very interesting how different those two blades are. I mean, they're just two different sports basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember, so I used to fence foil, by the way. The first 4 years when I started fencing, I was competing. I fenced foil, and then I had to switch to saber because my coach quit, and the only way I had to keep up in fencing was either choosing epee or foil. But I couldn't. My personality couldn't fit in with the epee, so I mean, from foil to saber or epee, and I couldn't. I didn't feel like I'm the epee personality because I'm a little hyper cray cray. So with that being said,
Oh
do
yeah.
you
Oh
feel
yeah.
the
I
three weapons
definitely.
have
It's
the
like
three
choosing
different
your Pokemon.
personality of the people?
That's how I felt about it when I was a kid. I mean, well, at Alamo Fencing Academy, it's only epee, all epee gym. But when, you go to a different club or you just learn about the different blades, you have 3 blades, and as a kid, Pokemon was a huge thing, and it still is, I guess, for a lot of kids. But it's like, you choose fire or water or earth, and it's very much, like, geared to what personality you have, right?
Absolutely. I feel like in my perspective, will be like the saber fencers.
Mhm.
We're very impulsive. Doesn't mean that we're always going to make the right decision. I'm just saying that we are very impulsive. We like, let's go, let's go. Foil is kind of the balance between the both weapons, where they will be very impulsive, very aggressive, but also they're going to have their kind of time where they're going to think. And you guys, the epee, will be definitely
Right.
the more like,
Assess
let
and
me
analyze.
assess it,
Yeah,
let
kind
me
of.
see the
So I would say
situation.
there's a
Let me
level of
analyze what's happening.
analysis
Is
involved
that
in
correct?
fencing epee, but if you get too deep into it, then you're not allowing your body to just react and move. So one thing that I noticed for a lot of really great epee fencers
Hmm.
is they don't they aren't analyzing as much. They're just feeling it. They're not planning out like, okay, I got to do a circle 6 at this time, right? Sometimes it is. Sometimes you can notice like, okay, this fencer in front of me is doing this style of footwork over and over and over and over again, and they keep showing like a parry four. So then you just like try to bait that parry four and then move around it and go. And so sometimes there is a level of strategy involved, but you don't want to get or paralysis by analysis, right? Because you can overthink an epee and then you just get hit.
Yeah,
There's a balance.
absolutely. Yeah. So now we're gonna go back to actually what made you start doing the training, the fencers and the
Yeah.
athletes, and what
Yeah,
kind of motivated
absolutely.
you to start doing that? And
It's
now it's kind
a
of a
lot of my
business, it's kind
life
of a job.
has led me to this, and I'll tell that story. It's a little bit I'm trying not to keep it too long, but when you hear about how my trajectory with fencing went and what I had access to, it makes sense of why I do, say, the strength and conditioning versus coaching epee. And so When I was a kid, I told you I had started at Alamo Fencing Academy, right? I went to the camp and I started fencing. It was around I was like 11 or 12 when I first started, and then, like, it was during July, my birthday's in July, so I was 11, turned 12, like, during the camp. And so when I started getting a little older, like, past middle school and into high school, my family was just running through a lot of problems. My mom was a single mom, worked, worked outside of the city, so she had to wake up super early and leave and not come back until super late. I lived with my grandparents my whole entire life, and there just wasn't a lot of money in order to keep me going to practice, right? So we unfortunately just couldn't consistently pay for me to keep going to group classes. And that also just knocks out the ability to get new equipment, the ability to get private lessons, the ability to go to tournaments because tournaments can be expensive, especially if they're out of your, city. And for my mom who's like working constantly and even on the weekends,
Absolutely.
right? What time is
Yeah.
there, That made it really hard for me to stick with fencing consistently enough to where I could get really good and be like some of the high school athletes that I've got who are, going to NCAA, and I'm so proud of them. But it also gives me the perspective that, I see the other kids in the class and I try to remember where I was. Sometimes, like, if they don't show up to practice, it's not always because they don't want to or they're lazy. Sometimes there's other stuff going on. And by the time I was 15, I had to get a job and
Absolutely.
pretty much pay for almost all of my stuff, my own things, whether it's my clothes, my food, everything. And so for a 15-year-old to have to pay for fencing is a lot, right? A lot of times it just came down to, like, we just didn't have the money to go. But one of the things that I did have enough money to pay for was a $12 membership to Planet Fitness. So I would go to fencing as much as I possibly could. And Andrei
Okay.
Somorodov is the coach over there, and his daughter Oksana. I remember them like as my heroes when I was there because they just were. Andre is just this huge, giant guy, super strong, and he had a really like a big passion, and he leaned heavily into the training portion of things, like making sure everyone was super fit, everyone was super strong. You always had to pay your dues before leaving practice, so you had to go do like a certain amount of squats, sit-ups, and push-ups. No matter what, no matter who you were, you always had to go get that before you could leave practice every time. And I took that with me, and I really loved that training aspect part of it. But since I couldn't really practice fencing outside, I took that to Planet Fitness. And my best friend at the time was also on the football team at school. I played football and soccer and other things too. I just love fencing more. But we would go to the gym together, me and him, and he would show me what they did in football, and I would show him what we did in fencing. So we had this mix of like strength and like agility and all that kind of stuff. And I really fell in love with that. That with me into college. So when I went to college, I did not go on to an NCAA team. I'm from Texas, so there's no NCAA teams there at all. It's all sport clubs, which people have, weird issues with. And I can talk more on that, how I feel
Mhm.
about that
Yeah.
later. But uh, I couldn't there was no possible way that I would ever be able to get onto a real college team because we just did not have enough money to have me go compete or get private lessons or anything like that. But I still loved fencing no matter what. Like, I just loved it so much. And so when I went to college, I was super happy that there was a sports club that had it. But it turns out, I had actually more experience than most of everybody, even as a kind of like inconsistent fencer, because a lot of them started just in college. So I'm coming from maybe like several years of fencing practice and coaching, even though it was very inconsistent, but I still had a lot more than what they had. What ended up happening was I became the president of that club and coached everybody, and I really pushed that whole club to get better, grow stronger. We would go to tournaments as much as we possibly could. That's where my love for fencing and my skill really expanded because the sport clubs are a much more affordable way for a lot of people to get into fencing. I'm a business owner too with the online stuff. And when you go to a fencing club, it's a business. You can't fault owners to have to pay their rent and buy the equipment and run these classes, right? So it can be expensive. But the sports clubs are subsidized by the school. So you don't
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
pay that much money to go and get into a sport club. And so it gave access to a person like me who I love fencing and I've tried to do it as much as possible as a kid, but now it's like $70 for the year, the whole year, right? Or some people that maybe come from a really small town. I had a lot of these where they were like, oh, they saw fencing on TV or in the Olympics and they thought it was really cool, but there was no fencing club in their hometown. So when they came to college and there was a sport club, they joined there. So I took this like ragtag group of like kind of fencers who didn't have much coaching, didn't have anything, and we grew it. And I taught them a lot about the S&C, and I taught them epee. Eventually, we had people that were really into saber, and there was fortunately one other saber coach in our town who she would come in and coach us every now and again. Her name was Grace Buchanan. She's down in South Texas a lot. She went to San Marcos, and John Trojanowski is also, a really good friend of ours. He helped us really help grow that club and make sure we get coaching. That's where it grew, and I really learned how I got better at fencing by having to teach other people how to fence. And then we would go and compete. I would go get certified in refereeing. I got certified as an assistant moniteur. So I really pushed myself really hard to learn how to fence well, how to get as much involvement as I possibly could, even though we had to drive like 3 hours to get to a tournament anywhere, right? So we would go to Houston, we would go to San Antonio, Austin. Dallas is like 8 hours away from where we were. And that's how the only way to get tournaments. So I pushed really hard to do that. And the strength and conditioning that I got from Andre, I took into that club and grew it. And I was studying business, so I took everything I learned in business and used that to grow that club. And my probably proudest moment wasn't actually me competing, but in my final year before I left was I brought the very first fencing tournament, the Southwestern Intercollegiate Fencing Association tournament, to my college. It had never been done before. And SWIFA, that's called SWIFA. In Texas, we have Southwestern Intercollegiate Fencing Association because we don't have NCAA. So all of the sport clubs host tournaments all like for a year, right? And all of the universities come. And it could be a pretty heavy tournament because I mean San Antonio has a pretty good amount of fencing. If you go to Olympian fencing gym, you're fencing with the UIW team, and that team wasn't alive. Like the UIW Incarnate Word team had not been formed while I was in college or until later. If you get people from University of Houston, guess what's in Houston? I mean Alliance, and you've got the Woodlands Fencing Academy, and so those guys sometimes they're going to those clubs and getting training. And so when you go to these Texas Sport Club tournaments for the schools, SWIFA, pretty intense tournament. And my crowning achievement, the thing that I'm most proud of was being able to bring that to my college. And we had 6 universities, 300 competitors, all 3 blades,
This
team
is
events.
amazing.
And I wrote the playbook, and then they were able to continue hosting it after I left. So that was great. And then that's when I started my master's, and I took a really
That's
long
amazing.
hiatus. I was going to master's school, working full time. I just had no time to full time work during the day, master's at night. And then when I moved up here to Virginia, the Washington, D.C. area, I mean, it's super expensive up here. I just started my new career. I barely had enough, but Greg Kadanov, who runs Nova Fencing here, he kind of helped me get back into fencing and gave me some, a little bit of leeway to get back in. And during COVID is when I decided, like, I kind of want to go into personal training because I've always been training, I've always been working out, regardless of whether I was fencing or not. If I couldn't fence, I would go to the gym, right? So I've just been doing it for years. And I realized like during COVID and lockdown, we're remote. I was like, man, I'm really missing seeing people in person. And I live next to Gold's Gym. So they have this program basically where if you go and work for them, they'll pay half of your cost to become a personal trainer. Because I didn't have enough money to put down. I was still growing my career. I was living in a really small apartment, barely any furniture, right? Like eating out of like Tupperware things, right? It was kind of the struggle, like the classic struggle at the beginning. But I started personal training, and Greg caught wind of it. And I was still fencing too, right? So I was going to fence every now and again, a couple of days out of the week, just kind of keeping up with it. And then he heard that I was a personal trainer, and he was like, "Hey, I'm trying to run a strength and conditioning class here, like an agility fitness class. But all the guys I'm hiring, they like don't know fencing. They all come from soccer or football. They know all these other sports, but they don't know fencing." And Greg knew I fenced because I've been fencing there. And he was like, "Would you like to run the class here?" So I started a class with like 4 girls who are like basically half of them were pretty much with me up until this year. Last year, one of them left to college. Another one just walked on to her NCAA team. I still got Isabella and those 4 girls, and Kat. Kat is probably also was in there. Kat is in. She's an adult fencer, so she's like 26, 27, but she's in a lot of my videos. She was there back in 2021 in my first class. All we had was kettlebells and like a set of like maybe 10 kettlebells and jump ropes. And as we grew, the fencing club grew, and now my class is like 35 kids, and I have an assistant coach that helps me with the class, and it just grew. That's just kind of I know that was a long story, but that was the trajectory. Is that I didn't have a lot of access to fencing as a kid, but I loved it. But the thing I could pay for was going to the gym. So I just kept going to the gym. And Andrei Samardov like taught me like the love for exercise and training hard. And so I took that with me all through my life as much as I could. And I kept coming back to fencing, kept bringing that aspect to it. And then once I had this opportunity presented by Greg, I took that, grew this class, and then eventually I was like, well, maybe I should share it with more people. And that's when I started my Instagram page.
Yeah, like I mean, do you know, like when you're looking into somebody's social media, you can definitely read between the lines of the passion that you have for, but also the knowledge you have for, and then how much more you want to learn to get better. And I'm always like, because I love observing people, I love everything about the mindset. And while you were telling me your story, and I bet you had those moments where you were like, I'm doing everything right. Why am I struggling? Why am I constantly having like obstacles and this and that? But I feel like without those things, you weren't going to be the person you are right now to almost like it's this how should I say it, from the difficult situation you create something so beautiful, so meaningful that like
Absolutely.
I'm sure that now if
Absolutely.
I ask you
And
was the struggle worth
It
it, you're
it's
gonna say
given me
yes.
just a really different perspective on our sport as a whole. Being a person who got into fencing and has loved it, but never really had the, I don't want to say opportunity, but this mindset that I think a lot of fencers come in
Opportunities.
and once they really love it and get into it, they're like, I've got to get on a college team. I've got to go, like, you've got to go to the top. You've got to be the best. You got to go. And I'm like, for me, like, that does sound awesome, but it was just never a possibility for me. It was never gonna be a possibility for me. So what I just focused on was going in there and doing my personal best and, like, enjoying the stuff that I liked, which was the athletic training part, and then just going to fencing and taking that athleticism and using it in fencing and just having fun with it. And the fun part doesn't mean that it's less than, it's not less stakes because if I go to a tournament, I'm still trying to win. I'm still trying to go for it, but I also am not making it this big, giant, lifelong, like,
Of course.
thing, right? This big, giant weight on my back that I feel like a lot of fencers have, and I think fencers, if they don't if it's like, "Oh, you're fencing, but you're not trying to go to the NCAA, or you're not trying to be at the top level," then it's like, you're not doing it, like, the best. You're not doing it the most, and it's like, I think we need, from my perspective, to recognize that there's some people that just want to come in and play the sport and do and have fun and do that part. And fun doesn't just mean don't compete, don't do your best. It just means that they're not trying to make it the biggest, giant, most important thing in their life. Just like soccer and football and all these other sports.
Absolutely. If you watch one of the videos I created, I think it was last week, because for the longest time I constantly see how social media promotes Olympians, world champions, which I absolutely admire. Nobody should get me wrong that I don't think they worked so hard, but then I'm thinking I was literally doing a research. What percentage of the
Yeah,
athletes are
always.
becoming Olympic medalists or world medalists? And it's less than 1%. And that's why I'm always telling the kids, like, what about the rest of us? I was one of those 99% where, yes, I had big dreams. I didn't go to college with fencing. I didn't become a world champion, Olympic champion, and I didn't go to the Olympics at all. So where's the mindset? Where's the healthy mindset for all of us? Are we not good enough? Are we secondhand? And that's why I feel like everybody needs to start kind of twisting the things a little bit in perspective.
Yeah.
Like, we need to show those kids that we are going to be fine. We're going to have a beautiful and successful life. We're going to be happy for.
Mhm.
I am grateful for every single thing. At the time, I thought it's nasty and the universe hates me. And, like you're going into those kind of mindset moments where you're kind of depressed about it because you're like, I work hard. I know my parents don't have the money because I was in a very similar situation. And usually they're saying good things are happening to good people and whatever, you go with that. But sometimes you have to go through those things because now me and you in our own platforms can share our experiences. The kids can relate to us and the parents can relate to us. When I see somebody signing up at the club for fencing, I always say, I want to make sure the kids love the sport. You love the sport. Don't always focus on the IVs and everything else because not everybody's going to go there. And I don't want them to
Exactly.
think that their value is based on the results or
Mhm.
based on the college, but the teammates they have, the relationships they create. And the bottom line is sports are shaping you. Regardless what sport you're choosing, there should not be a kid not doing sports, regardless if they're good, regardless if they're coordinator or not. Pick something. There's so many sports that you can pick. Pick something. With our own kids with Chris,
Mhm.
we have three kids, 17 and a half, 13 and 7. I said, I don't care what sport
Yeah.
you pick, you will do something. But they're always going back to fencing because they grew up in the club. And our oldest didn't become world champion, national champion, but
Yeah.
he learned so much through the process that I feel like we did something good. And now our middle child, we'll see what's going to
Yeah.
happen, but it's not about the
I
results.
totally agree
And I
because
said, just
there
you're
is
all
that
in, just lock
expectation
in,
for I
all
think
in. That's
in
it.
fencing
Yeah.
where you join and you've got to go for the top level, and if you don't, then you're less. And that's just not true. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't encourage the ones that are really great and do want to go for it and we should absolutely support them. But at the same time, if somebody else isn't shooting for that or not like able to, then it doesn't mean they're less than. And this gets me back to the sports club idea, right? Is that I see it
Hmm.
from being a person who went to a sports club and as somebody who has been a part of like a solid fencing club, a fencing gym with coaches. Because the sports clubs, sometimes they have coaches, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have skilled people, sometimes it's just brand new people straight from college. So the thing is, like, a lot of fencers will look down on the sport club people, like they're less than, like they're playing make believe or something like that. And I just think it's not a healthy thing for our sport to hold on to that image as if it's like, bro, they love the same sport as you. You're not gonna go to a pickup soccer game and, like, look at the other people like, "They didn't play D1 soccer. Why are they out here kicking a soccer ball? Who are these guys?" Like, all, like, uppity, like, "Bro, just be happy that other people like the same sport as you and maybe help them out a little bit," right? Like, and maybe you don't know if you go into a sports club how good those fencers are. Maybe sometimes they are, usually, yeah, they're gonna be pretty fresh. They're gonna be like the kids that you get in the sport in your, fencing club. But sometimes you might get a person like one of my students in my class, she's going to William and Mary. Her name is Emily. She's been fencing since she was, probably like 10, 8 years old, whatever. And William and Mary does not have a fencing team other than a sports club. And I was talking to her and she was like, "Oh yeah, I was thinking about joining the sport club, but I'm not sure. It's just a sport club, right?" And I was like, "Listen, man, like it's fencing. Like go and you'll probably become the coach, but that's not a bad thing. Like you'll still fence with other people and you're going to have a great time and you're going to go and compete still and you're going to get to learn more about fencing because you're going to have to teach somebody else. And when you teach, you end up learning more. And at the same time, you don't know who's going to be in that sport club. You might see a person exactly like yourself. You started fencing when you're 8, you were in an actual fencing club the whole time, and now you're going and y'all both go to the sport club and now y'all are both at the same level. You don't know who's in those sport club and just because you're in a sports club shouldn't be looked down upon. Yes, do they have less coaching? Yes, do they have less experience? Yes, yes. But they're people that love the sport. That should be the only qualification that you ask for. Do you love the sport? Do you want to try it? Do you want to keep getting better? Fantastic. Let's go. And that's how I try to approach everybody and everything, all fencers. I try so hard to like instill that in my students when I can.
But I feel like you discover something that not many people see is like my goals and your goals may be very, very different, but it doesn't mean that we're less of an important part of the community or whatever that is. I feel like because now so many years after I stopped competing, now I have 3 kids of my own, the business, and I'm getting older. I mean, I would say more mature. I don't like the word older because you can be older and still be a little stupid, you know? But I sometimes we talk with Chris a lot about what is our goal. And I always say, I just want to be happy with who we have become and what we have built. Not necessarily like if we have a student winning Olympic medal, that's gonna be great. But then again, I have the same life. So what is the value that I give to the next generation of athletes and parents and I always want to make sure that the kids leaving the fencing club know that like regardless what they do in life, they can be happy and they don't have to compare their life and their part of success or whatever that is. For some, success is learning how to cook a chicken, and for others might be a medal, and for third person will be to learn how to plant flowers. And I think the whole thing of comparison is killing it's killing like the whole like mindset for the kids because they feel like I have to become a doctor because my friends are going to
Yeah,
medical
yeah,
school. I'm like, you don't like
yeah,
blood. How are you gonna become a doctor? That's what we all different. I know it's like, and you can see many people who are very miserable with what they do, but they
right.
do it for the money, and others who are
Yep,
not making that
absolutely.
much
I try
money,
to
but they're
instill that
super
same thing
happy,
in my
and that's
strength and
all that
conditioning,
matters.
that like thief of comparison or quote, whatever it is, or comparison is the thief of happiness. It's like in
Who's lifting more
in
weights?
strength
They're
and
competing for.
conditioning, us in, like, in the fitness world, Instagram has also blown up a lot of expectations. I've gotta look a certain way, I've gotta lift this certain amount of weight, I've gotta do these kinds of exercises, right? And then when the kids come into the class, and even on my online clients, the online clients, it's easier because 'cause they're not looking at other people, on the app, but they might be looking at other people in the gym. But regardless, what I try to focus in on is do like 1% better than what you did last week. Don't worry about if that guy or that girl is doing more push ups than you or running faster. You've got to improve you. And that's the metric. You look at what did I do last week and can I make it just like one incremental step better? Can I just go one little tiny step further? It's not about if, oh, well, he's lifting 50 pounds and I only lift 20 pounds. So I'm going to go and try to pick up that 50-pound weight. Like, bro, that's not how you do that. You do like, you keep it at the 20 and maybe do some more reps, or you go up to 25 and do a little less. Like, you go on your track and like you make yourself stronger or faster at your incremental pace. And you just stay consistent at that and you will stack. But that's the thing is also in strength and conditioning, fitness and all that is like everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's got their own abilities. Everybody's got their own strengths and weaknesses. And the only thing that you can really
Yes.
rely on is looking at what was my progress last week and how can I incrementally improve this week. And then as long as you can look at yourself and your resume and look at that, you'll find that happiness.
So
Sure.
now we're gonna go back. We're gonna go to the workout suggestion and things, your expertise. So, what will be your suggestion for a athletes to preventing injuries? Something very summarized in a, like suggestions. If I'm telling you, let's say I'm your client, and hey, I'm competing in World Cups. What should
Two
I start
sides of
doing
that.
because I'm
One
getting
side
too
is the
injured?
strength and
I'm just
conditioning,
getting injured
and the
more
other
than
side might be the fencing practice, but I lean on the strength and conditioning side. On the strength and conditioning side, I always recommend everybody try to focus on a balanced approach to all of your muscles. Just because you're a fencer doesn't mean you always have to work out the extension, right? Because if you just extend, 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 and then you go to the gym and only work extension, no wonder your elbow hurts, bro. You're never pulling, right? We have pushing muscles, we have pulling muscles. We have squatting and we have hinging. So that's like the four quadrants that I like to think about. You have your push, you have your pull, you have your squat, you have your hinge. Your hinge is like the hip movement, the movement in your hip like in a deadlift. If you don't balance all of those approaches, you will get imbalanced in other places. If you do not pull, your back muscles will get weak. The rear delt shoulder muscles and rotator cuff will get weak. Your biceps will get weak. All of those connect to the same exact joints that you're using to push. And the pushing is like, your chest press or your overhead press. You have to balance it out. If you do too much of one, then one is going to get weaker, one's going to get out of whack, one's going to get overused. So I always say just start with a balanced approach. Make sure you have a push, a pull, a hinge, a squat. If you do that and do it consistently over time, your muscles will get stronger, you'll lose your imbalances, and you'll fix the weaknesses, and you'll likely see less pain. The other side of it is your practices. So when I approach strength and conditioning, I never tell people to go 100% maximum every time. That's how you get injured, right? Like if I told you as a personal trainer to go in the gym and lift your max weight every single day and every single week, are you surprised that you're going to get injured? Okay, so what about your fencing? Are you going 100% max every fencing practice? No wonder you're injured, bro. Like, chill out. Have some easy days, have some heavy days. Like, balance it out or increase it over time. That's how I do my strength and conditioning. I do it in like phases of months. And so week 1 to 4 is always a scaling in difficulty. Week 1 is always super easy. Week 2, medium. 3, hard. 4, we either send it or we deload, depending on the person, right? So you could do that same thing for fencing as well. If you have a tournament at the end of the month, right? You go week 1, you're kind of getting back into this, like you're kind of increasing volume. It's easy, you're going well. Then 2, you're going a little harder, increasing volume, doing more 15 touch bouts, more lessons, a little bit more training. Week 3, go send it, get as much as you can, but week 4 before the tournament, you pull back, you relax, you rest, and that way you're ready and fresh. So it's about managing your intensity.
Yeah. So now it's gonna be interesting question. I was like, I wasn't sure if I should message you before I ask you, but I'm just very curious. What is the most
Ooh,
overrated
okay.
exercise you think, and what is the
That's a
most
good one.
underrated exercise?
Yeah. Yeah. Overrated
Because, some
landmine
exercises are
stuff.
very trendy and people are
Fencers
sharing on
love
social media, and you're
landmines,
like,
like the where you have the barbell and it's, like, stuck into the ground and you do it at, like, an angle. It's so good, but it's not, like, the end all be all. Just because it
yeah,
looks
yeah.
like a fencing extension doesn't make it that great. Like, it's cool, not that cool, guys. Not that cool. I would much rather you just do an overhead press, do overhead pressing and do horizontal pressing, like, and then you throw in the landmine press as, like, an accessory. It's still good. I wouldn't say it's bad, it's just overrated.
Mhm.
Now, underrated, sprinting. I don't feel like fencers sprint enough, especially saberists. Have you okay, so, I mean, anybody who's
No,
listening
they
to this
don't.
or even you right now, Google search what a flesh looks like, and then Google search what a sprint looks like, and tell me if you can spot the difference. There's not very much. They're dang near like you're both going like this, right? Like this, and the legs are crossed. It's the same movement. And at the same time, sprinting is pretty much the most explosive movement or thing that you can do as a human. A level of force that is produced in sprinting is higher than any strength movement that you can do. Like when they measure like how many newtons are pushed out when you're doing a squat or a deadlift or even a clean like an Olympic lift, it's probably around 3,000 to 3,500 newtons. A sprint is 4,000 and up. So like if you're talking about trying to train for explosiveness and like fast twitch muscle fibers, sprinting is like king. And it also involves the relaxation of the upper body because if you're real tight up here, you're not able to move. And that's very similar to fencing as well. You're exploding with your legs and trying to stay relaxed in the arms to maintain form. It's key for a lot of my programs, for all of my clients, all of my classes. Sorry, excuse me. It's key for all of my clients, all of my classes, all of my
No, no, it's okay.
programs, all my students. We are sprinting. If explosiveness is a problem, you should go sprint. And then you do maybe some change of directions.
And even though I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
Even though in saber we cannot cross our feet, for us it's gonna be flunge. Or I
it
mean,
can.
also that's gonna
Absolutely. Yes.
improve your
I have
footwork and
all of
speed of the
everybody
advances and
sprint,
everything
like
else.
saber, epee, foil,
Yeah.
everyone sprints. Everybody. And it's not always about having the exact transfer of crossing the legs. It's more
Mhm.
about the amount of force that you're pushing through your foot to explode yourself forward. Because you, just saying that, you can think about like saber, right? Like pushing through the ground and exploding forward, whether it's an advance, a lunge, or a flunge, right? Sprinting is like that. It's maximal. It's maximal intent. And usually you don't need like super long sprints for a fencer. Like a 100-meter dash is not necessary. This is where we get into specificity, right?
Mhm.
Like what exercises are we going to choose and what variations are we going to choose that make the most sense. Sprinting has a lot of different forms. You can do the 10 meter, the 20 meter, the 40-yard dash. You could do the 100-yard dash. You don't need the 100 because you're not going to be going maximally that fast, right? And you're going to decelerate and reverse in direction in fencing. What I prefer is 10 to 20. And then sometimes if you want to get into like the 40-yard dash, it's because like you want to maybe sometimes they need a little bit more distance to really feel that maximum velocity, and also because it's fun too. I mean, it's good. It's fun to like get that fast over that distance. But 100 yards, like that's just unnecessary. At that point, it's just you don't need it. So a 10-meter to 20-meter sprint is so underrated for fencers. I don't see really anybody else in the sphere pushing sprinting for fencers.
No, I mean, not really. And I'm happy that the kids have so much access to information and tools to get better behind the scenes because obviously, so the biggest misconception is like they go to the club, they do the footwork drills, this and that, but we have such a small amount of time for 2 hours to fit in everything you can. And I always tell the kids, you have to supplement something on the side, depending what level of a fencer you want to be. When you see those Olympians with that incredible footwork, this doesn't happen from advances and retreats on the fencing strip, and that's being honest. Like, there's so much more on the side. Not only the physical part where you train with a trainer who understands their material, but also with the mindset coach.
Yep.
This all is what
Yep.
makes the fencer or an athlete a great athlete. So that's what it is. And
Yes.
then I think to this one, we can also add the nutrition. What do you feel it's something on a daily basis as a competitive athlete
Always.
should
I mean,
consume
it's a
during a
mix of
regular
protein and
schedule of
carbohydrates.
training?
Generally, most people are really low on protein. Protein is so key for all athletes, not just bodybuilders. So I know you're gonna hear like bodybuilders talk about getting a whole bunch of protein in. You probably don't need as much as a bodybuilder. But what I usually say is get around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. It's a very easy calculation. If you're 150 pounds, then you need 150 grams of protein a day.
Hmm.
And you can figure out how that works out in whatever way you want. You can do it through protein shakes, chicken, lean meat is usually the best, right? Protein is the building block for your muscles. And guess what we are taxing in practice? We are pushing our muscles super hard. And like, if you don't eat your protein, you will not recover. So that's another thing about weakness, right? And getting pain and injured and stuff. A lot of times it's also nutritional. Like, you're practicing so hard, training so hard, but you're not giving your body the things it needs to rebuild and recover well. So protein is one, but carbohydrates is also extremely important. Carbohydrates is the fastest energy source that the body has. They come in different forms, and I actually have a video coming up on it. But, you have your complex carbohydrates, and basically carbs are sugars. The more complex they are, the more chains in the sugar molecule there are, right? So more chains means it's harder for your body to break down. Those are good for like when you're trying to stay full for longer, they have a longer time to digest versus maybe something with a more simple structure like fruit, white rice, white bread, things like that are still really good for athletes, especially before practice or before tournaments, because they don't sit in your tummy for long. They can digest quickly and give you really clean, quick energy. And then you have your super simple ones, which is just basically sugar or corn syrup, right? Like you got candy, soda, those kinds of things. Those are super fast, but they're even faster
And those are
than,
the
say,
fast
your white
ones.
rice or your honey. So, like, just plain pure sugar, the way I have a video coming out where I'm going to show you the graph. So, that sugar gets you that energy fast, but it goes whoop and then comes down, right? And that's why you feel a sugar crash. You ate a bunch of sugar, you got super hyper, and then you're dead, right? Versus white rice will come up, 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 and it has a little bit longer of an energy release. And that's why runners have energy gels or those honeycomb things that people are eating now for energy. Those are really good
Yes.
sources of simple carbs that can give you clean energy without the crash.
So I noticed with our middle child, Nicholas, he fenced Y12 last season. And on one tournament, usually he never wants to eat anything, but I see him gassing out after the pools. He's starting the D, and you see that like he's barely like making it. And I'm like, Nicholas, you need to understand that as much as you don't want to eat because whether you're nervous or whatever that is, we got to figure something out. So I do remember, and that was the craziest thing that I noticed. The pool was done. I
Yeah.
gave him a
Oh, those
one
are good.
strip of those the Costco dry mango, they have more sugar added to it, one of the strips.
Mhm.
Yep. And then
Applesauce.
I gave him he wanted also applesauce. I gave him the applesauce. He fenced 10, 15 minutes later, and I'm literally speechless. He won the bout, but the way he fenced for me was important. I wanted to just figure out that. I gave him another strip of mango. He ate another applesauce, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we cracked the code. Like, because I do know kids are feeling like nauseous. Some kids do feel nauseous because of the stress and stuff. But I tell the parents, you gotta figure something out. You gotta, because the electrolytes, the hydration, and the snack that the body needs. And the craziest thing is, like, I remember I was watching Lee Kiefer's interview, or it was a video she created. I don't remember. It was a year ago or 2 years ago. What I eat in a tournament during the day. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I
it's
was like,
because you're
this
doing
little
so
girl
much
is eating like
activity.
5 times
We're
what
doing
I
so
think.
much. It's so much, and that's what I also offer
She knows
my
her
clients
stuff.
as well, is like that information on what do I eat before and during a tournament. And the feedback that I get is like night and day, just like your story. You make sure that you have some kind of fast acting quick carbs at least every hour while you're competing, and your energy is going to be clean, it's going to be constant, and you're not going to have that crash. It's the fastest easiest thing that you can do to immediately gain more energy for a tournament is just have those simple carbs like applesauce or fruit or the energy like runner energy gel things in between every D. It'll change the game.
I agree. And also another thing that I suggest to the parents is
Mhm.
when the kids are training and they never tried electrolytes, they never tried anything. And all of a sudden, in the tournament, they're bringing all this back huge with stuff. And I was like, I do agree we have to feed the kids, but you don't know how your kid is going to respond to certain things when you're giving it. Some might be vomiting. I mean, you don't know. And I'm like, let's start implementing those during practice to see how they're going to respond to it. So that's the only suggestion. I don't know that much about nutrition. I do want to learn so you have a basic knowledge as a coach, but also our oldest son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 5.5. So me and Christian had to learn from a very young, when he was very little, like we were looking at the graph of his sugar, what he eats, how it spikes, and this and that. So we understood a lot about it and knowing how much it stays. And Chris, what was the thing? Was it pizza and something that he was eating was staying there for like ages, and we were like freaking out. But then
Yep.
we understood that like this is what our bodies does if we eat this and this and that. So there's a lot for the parents to learn, and I feel like they need to find a way to educate themselves, to educate their kids, because also us as a coach, as me, I'm spreading myself so thin that I don't think I'm the perfect person to be asked. But somebody like you who studies this on a daily basis, you see the results, you have feedback from your
Yeah,
athletes.
thank you,
You're
and
the
and
best
I'm
person to
certified. I will
somebody
put
to
that out
reach
there.
to.
I'm a sports nutrition specialist, so I've done I've done the homework and taken the
This
test,
is very
and
important.
I've also put it to use, and it's really important. It's really important, and it's a really immediate change when you start getting the nutrition right.
Absolutely. What keeps you motivated to do what
Yeah,
you
I
do?
mean, it's
How
just
do you
helping
still
people.
you
Just
always
helping people.
find the
I love
love for
helping
it? Does it
people. I
make
love
sense?
getting the feedback from people and hearing how much I've helped them. You know, when it was just in person, I remember a very specific time where one of my students in class, Jada, she's about 14 or 15 now. She's probably 15 now, but she was 12 at that time, maybe 13. And she comes up to me and she's super excited and she's like, "Hey, Coach Rich, guess what? We just had our fitness test at school and I did like 20 push-ups and I beat so many of the boys." And it was like, and she was like, "I just wanted to let you know, like, thank you. It was all because of you. And, I just really appreciate it." And I was like, whoa, that was like hit my heartstrings. And as a personal trainer and coach, like you just get that experience a lot, right? It's at least as long as you're good, as long as you're teaching people healthy things and good things and really care about their progress. I love hearing that kind of stuff and I love helping people because I wished I had that same help when I was a kid. And when I got it, I really appreciated it. And so that's why I lean on the strength stuff is because I just love it so much too. And I'm really good at it and I'm really good at coaching it and I just know when I was a kid, if I had somebody more dedicated to teaching me all of these proper strength and conditioning tactics and nutrition tactics, that I would just have skipped so many years of like trial and error and like making mistakes and getting injured and having problems and struggling. And so I'm just so happy that I can go back and give that to other people, no matter what age. Like I'm helping people that are my age, that are older, that are super young. I have one client that her Beatrice, she's in vet 50s or vet 60, and she's a beast. And she would go to the gym all the time and tell me like, "I'm just working so hard, but I don't think I'm getting stronger." But once I started coming to you as my coach, it was just like you showed me how to do it, and, like, it's a game changer, and then it transfers over to your real life because if you're vet 50, vet 60, like, fencing isn't, like, your main thing, right? And she told me a story where she was coming home with her friend, and their neighbor, who was, a little more elderly than they were, fell. And, when somebody's older falls, it's a very scary and big deal. Like, they're two women and, Beatrice is maybe like
Yes.
5'3", 5'4", and the other lady is about her same height, and he's kind of a larger man, and they're really scared, like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to call 911, we can't get him up, how are we gonna get him up?" Beatrice, like, puts out one arm, and she's like, "Come on." She grabs him, and he takes her arm, and she said, "Richard, I just pulled him up one arm, and he just stood up, and I just got him," and her friend was like, "What the heck?" And she was like, "You're so strong, Beatrice." And then Beatrice came back, she's like, "That was you, Richard. You taught me how to be strong. You showed me the way." So it's like, it's those things that it's not it does help with your fencing, but it helps also in every aspect of your life, and it just, like, improves everything about you, and it's so good to just help people achieve that. That's what motivates me.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, I think helping people is the bottom of, I mean, it's everything. Like, same thing for us as a coach. Is like helping those kids, regardless of the outcome and the results. I'm sure that we shape them in some way and form that they're going to be very successful human beings outside of the fencing. How do you balance work and life? How do you kind of, because as a coach for us is 24/7 coaching, and sometimes you're trying to unplug, whether I plant flowers, Chris loves to, he loves barbecuing and stuff. How do you balance it?
Well,
What is your key?
I think what I have to do is disconnect from my phone because so much of my business is online through Instagram, and I have the app that people get my programs with. And so, I'll get notifications from the app from clients. And, my computer now is, it's just, when I open it up automatically, I see the programs and everything. And then, it's a lot. Disconnecting from the devices, going on a hike is my favorite, going on walks. You can't always go on a hike, but going on walks with my wife and my dog, like, just disconnecting, going outside, blocking out time for me to fence without coaching other people. That's been nice. Like, I'm not here to coach. I'm here to fence. And then yeah, exactly, and it's like, I mean, I'm happy to give
Leave
people a
me
little bit of
alone,
advice when I'm
people.
there and everything, but still, it's like on the days where I coach, and this it was like this for
Of
many,
course.
like a lot of time, like a long time. Like, you don't really have time to fence. Like, you don't have time to go and do it yourself. You're coaching, and maybe after my classes and all my clients were done, I would have time for maybe 2 or 3 bouts, and it was like, "Okay, that felt really good, but, I still feel like I'm rusty and I'm not really getting good practice in." So making that time to actually go in and fence and just be there for a day, be like, "Nope, I'm not coaching. I'm just fencing." Because fencing is what I love, and if I can do it without worrying about training somebody else, that makes me feel really good. And also sometimes doing a workout that's not programmed. Just going out and do a random workout with a friend or whatever it is, just anything random that's off the program really helps too. Because sometimes when you're so programmed and so structured, it all feels like a chore, like I've got to do this. And it kind of has to be if you're going for performance goals, like you have to have a regiment. But to like remind yourself that I love this sport, I love going to the gym and training, like sometimes you just got to do something that's random and off the plan. So that's how I approach it.
Yeah, you gotta. I feel like nowadays with the social media and everything, because people back in the day didn't deal with the social media and all this kind of stress. But I think for us, being a little bit selfish and thinking a little bit about yourself, it's so important. So you have this healthy environment around you and everything else. Because you see, like the season in fencing season is so long, we almost don't have any breaks. So you gotta get a little bit of time you have to do, whether it's a walk outside, because we like to do this the same thing
Yeah.
with Chris in the mornings, just around the neighborhood. And
Me and my wife, we look
sometimes
at
we
real
just talk
estate.
about
We
life
go into
and
the
you're just
neighborhoods and,
walking.
like,
Yeah, you don't do
judge other
anything.
people's houses. What we love to do. We like to go look and be like, "Mm, yeah, that one's really nice. I like what they did there." And then look at this other one and be like, "Oh, no, I would never do that." That's so satisfying.
We actually sometimes do the same because sometimes it cringe like, "Hey, do you know those neighbors are doing their yard so well? Let's walk." And we walk and we're talking with them about this and that because we love to do DIY projects at home. People have seen those projects, and it's just not because we don't want to hire somebody. I mean, that's part of it because
Yeah.
they're charging head and neck for certain things, but also we like the creativity behind it. So yeah, we do similar things. I have one last question. Now, what do you want to be known for? What kind of legacy you want to leave behind one day? Let's just say you're 80 years old or whatever. You're retired. You don't do anything social media related. Maybe what is it the
Just
thing that you want to be known
being of service to others. Give as much as I can, helping people. That's the core, I think, of everything. No matter what it is, whatever job I'm doing or business I'm running, helping other people is what I wanna be known for.
It's amazing. And now tell me more about the programs you have so people can find you. So your Instagram username is USA Fencing Strength. I can add it to the description of the podcast and the
Sure.
YouTube video.
So
But tell them,
my
you know,
programs are online,
what is your programs
and
about?
I started them because I figured maybe other people outside of my fencing club would find benefit to those too. So I offer my one-on-one personal training, which is the first offer that I have, and that is, you know, really in-depth coaching. I'm messaging you every week. You have a video call with me every month. I'm customizing your plans. I'm giving you nutrition plans and helping you plan nutrition for a tournament. I'm changing things if you go for a tournament or if you have travel. It's a full service coaching package, and I try to give as much value as possible since we're online. I also do video tutorial review, like video reviews. So you send me your videos of your exercises, and I help you correct your form in that format. And that's what I've been offering for a while. And then I noticed that a lot of people just, just like me, couldn't afford all of that, right? They didn't have the ability to pay for those things, but I still wanted to help them. So I started offering these free programs, and that's always on my the link in my bio. You could always go there, and you can always find a free program. I'll always put that up there, and it's a full month of training. It's generalized for anybody. It's a Google Sheet, so you can download it to your Google Sheet app on your phone and then track it. It'll have everything you need, and, I've linked the YouTube videos and alternative exercises if you wanna swap it out. So I try to give you as much value in that, free version. But I am about to release a new set of programs, which will be kind of in between. So it's a step down from the one-on-one personal training, and it's gonna be more of a kind of like group setting type thing where you get a pre-made program, whether your goal is explosiveness or endurance or a hybrid of the two. So if you feel like you're slow, you're not explosive enough, I have a program for you. If you feel like you're kind of gassing out, too tired, don't have the endurance down, I got a program for that. If you feel like you just need both, there's that third option. And you'll be able to download that, have full access to those, full video tutorials, do it on your own time, on demand, and things like that. And that'll be kind of in the middle.
This is amazing. I'm sure that the kids and the parents will reach out and whatever questions they have. I really want to thank you so much for your time to
Feels
spend
like a
with
Monday.
us in this beautiful Tuesday. I was going to say Monday, but I know it's Tuesday morning. Yeah, we just came back yesterday from tournament. I wish we had Sunday to rest, but unfortunately, no. But I really appreciate it. And you're not gonna. This is not gonna be the last time I see you in the podcast, I'm sure. And hopefully, we can actually do some fun exercise or something together when I see you in tournaments, or if I stop by at the club
Oh,
one
really?
day. But I wanted to tell you that also I met some of the kids that you're training at Nova Fencing. They were at the Boston camp. They're amazing kids. I had a lot of fun chatting with them. I don't remember all their names, and I was constantly apologizing. But yeah, they're incredible kids, and I'm sure that they're gonna have so much like success with you being by their side, and the club and the coaches and everything else. And I wish you guys nothing but the best.
Yes.
And yeah, and we're gonna keep chatting with you behind the scenes on Instagram. And I'll see you soon again on the podcast,
Thank
I'm
you so
sure.
much. It's been a
And
pleasure to be
I
here.
wish you an
Can't wait
amazing
for the
day.
next one.
Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.